Thank you so much. Thank you for joining and thank you for staying. I'm very proud to bring back to the stage two special guests. I'm going to bring Annie Becker, so writer-director of the film you just saw. And we have our second guest who's decided to join because your reaction at the end of the film was so intense that we just wanted her to share the stage with us. Thank you. I'm going to maybe ask you, Annie, a question, and then we can talk all of us together. It's a really quiet and subtle film that feels to be like constructed a little bit like maybe a painting, where everything appears little by little. It's little pieces of images, sound, quietness, and the complete relationship is appearing slowly. And it's a very beautiful relationship between a mother and a child that's with a very important portrait from the child point of view, but not completely. So I wanted to ask, are you thought about like the relationship a little bit and the construction between the point of view shifting from the mother to the child to the mother? And then I have a follow-up question, but I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, and it was a topic of conversation that came up a lot between me and my DP, Maria von Hauswolf, and just sort of a question that came up a lot as we got the film financed and brought people on board, like, is this from a child's point of view? Is the whole thing from Lacy's perspective? And it's interesting, I never really thought about it that way. Like, clearly she's the center of the film, and she's in every single scene in the film, and the one scene that she's not in, they say they feel like she's watching them, so she's clearly a pervasive presence in the movie, but I didn't actually feel like it was her eyeballs as the camera. And then in terms of the mother-daughter relationship, yeah, I thank you for saying that. I did want it to be an accretion of details rather than a relationship we understood from the beginning of the movie. And I felt like the mothers I'd seen in movies were either bad mothers or good mothers. You know, that I feel like you usually get one or the other.
I know. And usually the good mothers are boring.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
and
often.
And Julianne Nicholson and I had to talk about it a lot because there are these moments of tenderness between them. Like it was very important to me that you guys were holding hands when you walked to the theater performance in the parking lot, like little, but I wanted it to be a complicated relationship with a lot of closeness and a lot of distance, and to kind of, yeah, for it to be a painting that was only fully formed by the end of the movie. So I do really appreciate you saying that, yeah.
Since we have the star of the film with us, and you mentioned it was the first time she's acted and read lines that were not her own. Can you talk about the casting process? Because you find Zoe at the end of the casting, and how did you make sure that the chemistry would work with other people? I mean, especially with Julianne, and how did they rehearse together?
Yeah, well, Zoe, I'll start the story of the casting process, and then you can end it at when you came in. I mean, first we just saw every child actor who spoke English in the world. So, which took many months, and there's like a documentary short I want to make, because one of my big questions to every girl who put herself on tape was, tell me a recent dream or nightmare you've had. And so the casting director, Jessica Kelly, and I have like thousands of dreams and nightmares recited by like 10 to 12-year-old girls in the year 2021. Which a lot of them are pandemic related and internet related, and like it's so, I do feel like it could be an amazing document. Anyway, I met a ton of girls. I zoomed with, I mean, it just was like endless, endless, endless. And honestly, one of the most stressful working experiences of my life was just, it's also very painful to, I hate auditioning actors. I try never to audition actors in New York when I do a play. I try to work with people I already know. It's very painful, and it's not a great way to get to know someone. So kind of my worst nightmare, going through thousands of really interesting, wonderful young women and saying no to them. And then it became an internet outreach thing once we realized nobody who was a professional actor could do this role. And you finally found out about it through an e-blast, right? That like the mother of someone you knew. It became very important to us to have the right description. So I think do you remember what we said that like got forwarded to you?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we were like introverts welcome or something, right? Because it became very important that most kids who become actors, and I'm overgeneralizing, but often are people pleasers and extroverts, and we wanted someone who wasn't a people pleaser and resisted, you know, kind of like trying to be adorable and likable for the camera, and who could be herself. And what made you want to audition for it?
I don't know. I just thought it was cool, and I wanted to do it.
And what was the last thing you said?
And I just wanted to do it. It seemed cool. And, yeah.
I remember because we met, you put yourself on tape, then you came to New York, then you and I took a walk through Prospect Park together. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I filmed you like building a house out of sticks or something.
Yeah.
And I said, why are you interested in doing this movie? And you were like, I like memorizing lines. Yeah. And Zoe was like word perfect. Like you never, because I spent so long in the editing room with you, and my editor and I were like, there isn't a single take where she says a word wrong. Like it's like, I've never seen anything like it. Your precision. Do you still like memorizing lines?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I don't know.
You're just really good at it.
So you didn't change any lines? Like you wrote, she learned and she acted exactly what you said and what you wrote?
Yeah. It was great. Right? Did you? Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be a tough act to follow now because nobody else is going to be like so well behaved and interested in your words. People are going to change things.
I know.
And can you talk about, I guess both of you meeting Julianne and working with her, and how easy was it like for you, Zoe, to act with a grown-up that you didn't know before?
I don't know.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. Everybody was really nice.
And was it easy to talk to someone else that maybe didn't know the line just as well as you did?
You did know everybody else's lines too, I think. I sometimes, like, all of our adult actors, of course, like, sometimes got their lines wrong, and I would see Zoe kind of raise an eyebrow. You were very respectful, though.
I could see the face you would make because we see it in the film, and it's intimidating enough, and we know when you will make the adult sound stupid just by looking at them.
Zoe and we did do like I guess what you call a chemistry read with Zoe and Julianne in New York, like a month before we started prep. It was very harrowing.
So there was no backup.
There was no backup, and actually the two girls who were kind of our runners-up are both in the movie. One plays Sequoia, and one is the girl who gives Zoe the troll at the beginning of the movie. And they're both wonderful girls, both non-actors who I met like through the neighborhood or friends. But I knew we hadn't found her yet, and it was very scary. And I look back and I feel very scared thinking about it and what would have happened if I hadn't met Zoe. But you did come for a chemistry read in New York with Julianne, and it was so nice because it was the scene where you're lying in bed and you say, "My life is hell." And you guys were just both, it was so sad, and the two of you were just very funny together, too. And Julianne was sort of naturally turned away from you, and you were just kind of staring at her. with your amazing gaze. And it was very hard to picture anyone else in the movie after I met you. So. But it was scary for both of us. We connected a lot, right? Before we started shooting, like we'd just text each other. I'd write like, I'm scared, and you'd write, I'm scared. We were both doing things we'd never done before. We had like a signal. Do you remember our signal? When shooting started, the I'm scared signal. Was it this?
I think it was. I think so.
If one of us felt scared, we were like surrounded by like 50-something male grips from Boston or something, and we'd just be like, yeah, we were very scared.
Yeah.
I just now see like sequels a little bit like Jean-Pierre Léaud and, and
God,
Antoine Douanel.
that would be so crazy. That would be
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the way you structure the film. If it was, I mean, obviously you're a writer, so I assume you wrote the chapters in a certain order, and did you change it when you were filming, and how did you adapt then the very, you know, the structure of the film, that's very strict in a way.
Yeah, no, it was kind of, that was kind of my writing assignment when I in a weird way, the first thing I thought of when I started actually writing the script was that I knew it would end with this moment of a man evaporating in the middle of a date. And then going towards that, I realized it was going to be a story of a mother and daughter told through the people who come into their lives, told through 3 different people. So that was actually sort of like the originating impulse. And we, for better or worse, shot in order, not strict scene order, but Will Patton Wayne came for the first week, and then Sofia Okonedo came for 2 weeks, and then Elias Koteas came for a week. And they only overlapped by like a day. So Zoe met them in order and then had them leave her life in the same order. And it was really interesting, like when Will Patton left, we were all like kind of devastated. And we were like, what happened? And then Sophie showed up and was so charming and fun and smart, and it kind of evolved a little bit like the movie. And Zoe and Julian and I were, you know, there the whole time and kind of like living through it together. Yeah, what was that like for you, meeting those 3 adults in a row, one after another?
Intimidating, maybe?
Huh.
I remember the first scene you shot with Elias Koteas was the scene where you come in with ice cream on your shirt and he's sitting at the table and you were super weirded out, for real. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you to talk a little bit more about the sound of the film. I love the quietness of the film. I love the way you bring a silence and then music and mostly songs. And it's really subtle journey also just through listening to the film. So I wanted to ask you about how you thought about interacting with the score, the sound, the music, and having nothing at sometimes.
Yeah.
And you mix from the nature to like music as well. A lot of the time the music is directly from, you know, like the radio or like the dances, but there's no like extra stuff. It's just minimalist really on its approach.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I'd ever do it again, but it was another thing that like was baked into the writing of the movie, that all of the music was going to be diegetic, and even I think the mall montage is the closest it comes, but you know, technically it is the Muzak playing in the mall, and then we just kind of ramp it up. It was somehow important to me in a way that I can't totally understand, but any attempt to have a score in the movie that wasn't just what this kid was hearing felt wrong. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a purist dogma impulse or anything on my part. I actually just was like, I think this is what this movie sounds like. But it was one reason it was really important to shoot in Western Massachusetts. And our sound designer...
Because?
Oh.
You brought some people from there?
Because, well,
Because you
the
wanted
sounds are
the
really
sound to
specific.
bear.
And I met with our sound designer, Paul Shu, way ahead of time, and we had a really long talk about how the score for this movie was going to be nature, besides the few diegetic songs they listened to. And so Paul did this amazing thing, and everyone sort of thought we were crazy. But before official prep even started, before we had moved trucks in and a porta potty into that property, Paul came up with a microphone that he put under a bush in the driveway of that house. Do you remember that little tent he built? And he built a little tent around it so it wouldn't get wet. And it recorded sound 24 hours a day for 2 weeks.
Of nature.
Yeah, and my cinematographer and I, who were shot listing at the time, found it really inspiring because there was a wire that ran up the driveway into the house, and you could actually take a pair of headphones off the wall and just listen to the bumblebee that happened to be in the bush in that moment. It was so trippy, and whenever we got stuck, we would just trip out listening to the bees and the birds and then go back to shot listing. And so
it's great, it doesn't take you much.
No, it really doesn't. And that's the score for the movie, all that sound Paul recorded and had hundreds and hundreds of hours. And so speaking of trippy, when we started working together this spring, or I guess late this winter, we just listened to so much nature, Paul and Luke, my editor, and I, and started, building the score for the movie. And it was painstaking, really painstaking. And exactly when the woodpecker comes in during the dinner scene, but that is the woodpecker on the property of that house, and that was really important because Western Massachusetts sounds really specific. Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Did you listen also through the sounds when you were when they were listening to the bees and the birds and?
That was before you arrived.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And did you have to dance at all on the music at the end when you don't want to move?
I don't think I did. No.
Was it your choice, or was it written like this?
Huh?
Was it your choice not to dance, or it was written and directed like this?
I don't know.
It'd be crazy if the original screenplay was she gets up and dances. And they all hold hands
wondering.
and dance in a circle. No, I think that's as written. As written.
I just want to make sure that you didn't change the really happy ending.
But do you remember when we were filming that single shot of you, that's the last shot of the movie, I kept saying a lot of weird stuff to you. Do you remember? And we had to talk through a lot of different thoughts you were having until we found that thought. I was remember your rabbit dying? Do you remember that? No, never mind. Never mind. We don't have to go back there.
Don't bring all the sadness back.
But that wasn't actually the thought that you are. I think you're having in that last shot. I think I whispered to you, picture yourself dancing, and that was what you're picturing. I think in that shot.
I think she's trying to think about it right now. Look at this look. It's I will not dance.
But that was one of our last days of shooting. Yeah.
Yes. We're going to have to wrap up for today, but I want to thank you so much, Zoe, for coming and sharing the film with us. And thank you, Annie, as well. It was really great to have you here today.